You're just gonna show your oh, oops, never mind. Wrong
Wrong
show.
podcast. Oh, for our audio only listeners, there is a magnificent
We're just
orange cat
starting.
on the screen.
Shut up.
Everybody needs to know. It's very important.
Shut up. We don't want to talk about her pussy to start the show. Anyways, welcome. Yo. Yo.
Hi.
Yo. She doesn't know that's not when you're supposed to talk. That's the whole idea. What I said
That's
earlier.
okay.
That's my little greeting. You know what? I'm about tired of her already. We're not doing the show. It's canceled, everybody. No.
Ew.
Good morning. Fuck it. Janejira is spicy this morning. Good morning, everybody.
Hooray!
It's your man, Suit Man here. It's your host with the most. I'm up. I look like a pimp named Slickback. My hair still looks good from last night. That's definitely a massive start.
Oh, yeah.
But welcome to Autastic Artists 34. I'm your host with the most, Suit Man. Um, Good news. We're killing it. Um, there's no other way of saying it. We're gonna be on the local paper here in the next month. We got some other things in the works. Our movie's done. We're gonna work on our second movie, but we're here. As Jane always likes to say, we're here and we're queer.
Oh, yeah.
But without further ado, give it up for our co-host with the most. She's actually on time for once. Give it up for the potato chip enthusiast.
Hello, it's me. I have new pride stickers from my shop, Peachful Creations. Today is a good day, listeners and viewers. This is the first episode where we have actually never met the guest before. We just plucked them from the wild and was like, did I hear you say you're autistic? I have the perfect podcast for you. So
Oh
yeah.
no. Speaking of which, plucking a guest. So our other podcast we do is Autastic Artists and Disabled Dating with Disabilities. And I usually pluck strangers for disabilities, right? Because I see there's something they have a superpower. That's how we'll say it. And I'm like, hey, you want to be on a podcast? So I thought I found a guest for our other show, and I should have known better. I was working the security door at the back door, and I saw this girl with a she's born with a arm deformity, not quite disabled, but we'd consider that disabled, right? So she didn't have an arm; she had a nub, and this gorgeous young lady. I said, "Hey, do you mind if I ask you a question?" She's like, "Well, so you want to be on a podcast?" And she's like, "What podcast?" And I showed her the picture, and she started reading it, and she's like, "Well, what questions?" She asked, and so we just, and her friends were like, "We're not. Nobody here is disabled." And I was like, "But, you know what? I'll just leave it alone." And it was just, I guess this one's a little bit easier. You seem a little special. You want to talk about how special you are and how you do your art, right? The other one, especially with it, I should have known better because it's a under 25-year-old girl. It's in the nightclub setting, so she's definitely gonna be what's the word, self-conscious. But yeah, it didn't go well. My Asperger's showed. I definitely showed I was an autastic artist when I approached this girl about being on her podcast.
Oh,
But
whoops.
without further ado, our guest today, we don't know who she is. She's already been showing off her orange pussycat. Um,
Yeah.
I see how I added that second word so I didn't have to edit it later, right? Um, and I was like, whoa, she's a ginger too. I was like, does the carpet match the drapes? No, I'm just saying. She turns red too. She's redder than hell. All the way from Alabama. I promise you, she's not kissing her brother today. Give it up for Erin Bailey.
Hooray!
Hi guys. Hi y'all.
You laughed. You laughed a little too hard at that, Aaron. You couldn't hold
Yeah.
that one in.
No, my face does this. It just turns red whenever I laugh or yeah.
Do anything, just speak. Yeah, anytime, I'm just here. So tell us a little bit about yourself. You're in Birmingham. What are you? What do you
Yes.
do?
So I am 29. I am in Birmingham, Alabama. I am a artist. So I work with polymer clay. I make mostly earrings, but some other accessories. But I also have like a little side Instagram where I make like graphics, explaining like my autistic journey, and then just giving like general information on like autistic traits that I display, or things to like look out for and how to be like an autistic ally.
An ally. That's an
Hmm.
interesting word. Do you have what's the opposite of ally? That'd probably be like a foe. Have you run
An
into a lot of
enemy.
right? Have you ran into a lot of autistic frenemies?
For sure. I definitely feel like I have, especially as a late diagnosed autistic. People have always just assumed, like, oh, she's just a little quirky or she's just a little weird. So when I
Yeah.
actually discovered that I was autistic and told the world, they're like, no, I think you're just a weirdo. And I'm like, oh, okay, thanks.
That's how it was with my diagnosis. I went in and they're like, she has a pink backpack, so she's just quirky. And I'm like, that's not a
Yeah,
diagnosis, that's an opinion, and a bad one at that. Like, what? And then I
for
scored
sure.
a 98 out of 100 on the ADHD test. I didn't even have to study. And they were like,
Hmm.
that's great that you scored so high, but we can't diagnose you. And it's like, why did you make me take the test if you weren't going to give
Yeah.
me the answer? So I
Hey,
feel you.
Yeah.
no way. No way. I've never had that happen. Um, so, what's funny to me is when we think about things like this, a lot of people understand is what do you consider late diagnoses? Because I'm looking at you at 42 as a
Uh,
self-diagnosed autist at 37, and I'm like, she's not a day over 24. So, how old are you,
yeah.
Miss Bailey? How
So
old are you?
I will be 30 in July.
Okay.
So
All right.
I
30.
just
Okay.
look like a baby, but I'm actually a grown adult.
Yeah, because I thought you were like in your early 20s or something. I was like, that sounds about right.
Yeah, I get carded when I go to the store to buy cough syrup. The librarian at my local library almost didn't let me get a library card. She didn't think I was an adult. So,
Oh no.
I'm over here like I can't flirt with an 18-year-old, but I can flirt with a 30-year-old. Okay, I can definitely flirt. And she's turning red again. I like this. I'm just messing with you. Wrong podcast. We'll talk later though. We'll table that for later. I'm coming to
okay, okay.
Alabama, baby. I'll be coming to and coming in Alabama. I'm just no.
Wrong podcast. Woo. But this is great advertising for our other podcast, I suppose.
Yeah, we call
There you
it
go.
dating with disabilities. It's not love connection or anything, but sometimes, and every two and two, we get a connection. I'm just messing with you. So you're 30 years old in Alabama.
Mhm.
How old were you when you were diagnosed or you self-diagnosed? How old were you then?
So I was actually diagnosed as ADHD at 5 years old. So I lived my whole entire life thinking that I was just a really, really bad ADHD kid who just my medicine wouldn't work, and I just didn't like I believe I do have ADHD, but I also am autistic. So
It's
that
usually a
ADHD
two-in-one
umbrella,
deal.
yes. So that ADHD umbrella, while yes, it did cover a lot of the things I was experiencing, there were still other things that didn't fall into that ADHD criteria. And I just thought like, okay, I'm wrong, I'm broken. So in my mid 20s, one of my friends, we were out to lunch and he looked at me like all serious, like dead in the eyes, and was like, hey, I'm gonna like ask you something. And like, I don't want you to take offense to it. He's like, but have you ever considered that you might be autistic? And I was like, huh. I was like, that's like an interesting, like I've never thought about it because like my brother is autistic. Like he is not formally diagnosed, but we have known he was autistic since he was a young child.
Mhm.
But so I started to think about it. I was like, you know what? Like, yes, me and my brother are different, but we do have similarities. I mean, every autistic journey is different, but there are some similarities. There's usually a little bit of overlap between most autistic individuals. So from my mid 20s to like my mid late 20s, I really like did a lot of self like exploring and self discovering. And at my cat is literally making so much noise in the background. I'm so
Aw.
sorry if you can hear that.
You gotta
But
Love
get your
cats.
pussy cat under control, ma'am. Just scratch that thing. It usually calms down. Oh, sorry.
But so in my, I think I was around 27, I brought it up to my primary doctor, and she was like, no, she's like, if like what you're telling, like all the experiences you've experienced your whole entire life, she's like, it is highly probable that you are on the autism spectrum. So I was referred to a doctor that specializes in diagnoses and whatnot. It took 12,000 years, it felt like, to get my insurance to sign off on it. Because, I mean, insurance is a nightmare, especially for neurodiverse people or people struggling with mental health. They just pretend like, oh yeah, that's not essential, that's not important, we're not going to cover it. But really, these are people's lives that they're messing with. So finally, after like 9 months of fighting with my insurance, I went in for my assessment. And so I get there, and the assessor is like, oh yeah, we're here to test you for ADHD and learning disabilities. And I was like, excuse me, like I already know I have ADHD. I was like, I'm supposed to be being tested to see if I'm on the spectrum. And he's like, oh, well, that's not what your insurance approved. So I was just like, oh my God, like fuming. Like if I was a cartoon, there would be flames shooting out of my ears. So at this point, like I'm literally about to cry in this grown man's office. So he's intrigued. So he's like, well, tell me why you think that you're autistic. Because I'm being a late diagnosed autistic. I have gone my whole life just assuming I'm just this weirdo that never fit into society. So I have gotten pretty decent at, I mean, I'm awkward and I ramble and I can't stay on track, but I'm very good at keeping a conversation going. So a lot of times when people meet me face to face, like this doctor was for the first time, he was like, I don't really see it. So I pulled out this list because I'm a list maker. So I had this list on my iPhone.
That should have been the first sign.
Yeah, I mean, you would think like making lists should have been on the list.
Exactly.
It wasn't. I'll
Did you use a spreadsheet and color code it? Because if you didn't use a spreadsheet and color code it, it's not quite autistic. It's just Asperger's. No, I'm just messing. Go ahead.
But so I pull out this list. I read through all of these things on the list, and this man straight told me, well, you know, a lot of people think they're autistic right now because it's trendy on social media.
Ew.
And I was just like, I literally I went from like wanting to cry to like, let's go, Mr. Man. But so I kept talking to him and I was explaining it to him. He's like, well, you're married, you've like had employment, like all
Did she
these
just
things.
say she's married?
Yeah, I'm married.
Dun, 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 dun. Never mind.
I had a feeling that was the case. And I was
Podcast
like,
goes
shut up.
left. Let her go. She can't be on here no more. She's not my love of my life. I gotta let her go.
How dare.
Podcast over. Yeah. Go ahead, Miss Bailey.
So he was like, you're married, you have a job, like so I've worked for the same company since I was 18 years old, but it's literally because like I don't like change. It's not like, I know a lot of autistic adults have struggle with employment, but for me, like I was able to get a job and like I hyper focused on that job and I was like, I'm going to give this job 112%. So I've had different job titles over the past, like that's like 12 years, I think, or it's coming up on 12 years. August will be 12 years. But so I've worked for the same company for 12 years, which he's like, autistic people can't hold down a job that long. And I'm like, you're obviously neurotypical, but so we just had like a deep heart to heart, and like at the end of it, he was like, okay, he's like, I'm going to assess you. He's like, because I'm really, really intrigued. He's like, at face value, he's like, I would say that you're not autistic, but he's like, but like writing down everything that you've given me, he's like, you're textbook autistic on paper. And I'm like, yeah, bro, because I'm masking. Mind. Yeah, I was like, I've been masking. Like I have forced myself my whole entire life to just be the person. well, not necessarily be the person that everyone else wants me to be, but to try to fit in everywhere. So I've gotten really good at conversations, but it doesn't mean that like I'm not screaming on the inside. But so my assessment came back about a month and a half, 2 months later, and shocker, I was autistic, or I am autistic. But my official diagnosis was autistic with requiring support needs, and then what was it? How was it? Because it's worded so weird. I think it technically says autism spectrum disorder, but requiring support needs, high communication skills. So, but it's so crazy because like I had people in my life that would tell me like, because before, like, especially with late diagnosed autistics, most of us are self-diagnosed before we are formally diagnosed.
Because we have to be.
Exactly. And like it blows my mind how many people will be like, oh, you're not autistic. You can't claim to be autistic, or I won't believe you're autistic until it's on paper. And then I'm like, look, I got my autistic certifications. And they're still like, well, your doctor's wrong. And I'm like, well, what do you want?
Are you a doctor, bro?
Well, here's the thing, is I think it's a little different, especially, so we talk to people. I gotta say, this is the first time we've talked to a country bumpkin with autism.
Yeah.
We just figure you're from Alabama. That's why you talk like that. You're a little special anyways. Bless her heart.
Oh yeah, I say that all the time.
Bless your heart, right? But it's one of those when I'm reading up and is self-diagnosis valid, and there's a free online test to test if you're Well, I think back, and me personally, I'm a black autist, and I'm also 12 years older than you. So that decade makes a difference. And the reason why I say that is 10 years later, in the 90s and in the 2000s, they wanted inclusion, right? So you'd get an IEP and you'd go to regular class. They don't do a lot of portable classes now, right? Like you might be autistic and go to one class a day out of your 7 that's portable, or they take you out for an hour, but they give you a helper and try to keep you in class. Well, they didn't do that when we were kids. You got sent to the boiler room or the portable. And I went to the boiler room or the portable 3 or 4 years of my life. So I don't need a diagnosis. I've got the experience, right? So
For sure.
in Alabama, they put you in a portable if you're doing your homework and you can read. So I mean, I know it's got to be different. No, do you think any of this has to be? And I bring this up because it is almost like Alabama's a foreign country, because I believe with the climate and the demographics of your people, right? You're a heavy Republican, right? We're anti-science, right? And there's nothing wrong with that boy. He's just got to work harder, right? Like he stutters, Bob. He can't stop, right? Like there's that old witchcraft Southern vibe. Do you feel like that might be part of it? Because I don't know. Well, let me ask: have you been out of Alabama before?
Yes. So I have traveled mostly in the southeast, a little bit of the southeast, a little bit into the northeast. But Alabama is very much like, well, let me say this first. Luckily, Birmingham is a very diverse city. I feel like it is probably one of the most diverse areas of Birmingham, and I'm extremely grateful for that, because there are a lot of areas in Alabama that are very much like a boys' club. Like it's all straight white men, like, and that's it. Like you do what they say. They're making the rules, which I get. Like that's how our country was fundamentally founded, but that doesn't mean that's how it needs to be. But I have traveled outside of Alabama, but like I said, it's mostly been in the South. But being autistic, I feel like growing up, like, yes, most of my peers, my family have this one mentality or this one mindset, but being autistic and being on the outside, I have an appreciation for people who are different than me, or people whose opinions are different than mine. So I've never once looked at someone and been like, oh, you're LGBTQ. I don't understand or respect you. Like myself, I'm a straight white woman, but I understand that, like, when you love someone, you love someone. Or like Alabama, there's a lot of systematic racism in Alabama still. Uh, I have personally seen people in KKK masks, like driving down the street, which is mind blowing to me. Like, absolutely disgusting. But like, as an autistic person, like my struggles will never meet the same standard as the struggles that people of color face. But I'm able to use my experience to have empathy and compassion and understand like they are living a life that people who are not people of color will never understand. And I feel like autism, like I said, it's never going to be on that same level because autistic people have never been enslaved for being autistic and they've never been killed or beaten. Not to that level, but I'm able to use that to kind of see through their eyes or imagine being in their shoes. So I have a lot of compassion and empathy for people who are different than me, whether it be just physically different, like uh different God, my brain is a potato chip right now.
Well,
I'd be like,
here's the thing is, and I'm glad it's glad to hear Karen say it in the right manner, right? I'm sorry. I'm just messing with you. That's what we call you people over here. No, I'm sorry. She's like, I'm a hillbilly Heather where I'm from. It's okay. It's all right. I'll take it. Um, but that's the whole idea is I once you're never truly gonna understand it. There's an
mm-hmm,
old coworker I had, is white haired blonde lady from UPS, and one day we got paired together on a bigger truck, right? And the whole
mm-hmm,
day she saw how everybody was talking shit to me, and she would stand right there and they treat her nicely, and it was night and day how they were talking to me, and we're standing right next to each other. Like one
yeah,
guy even told me to get my shit together and figure out how to park, and I wasn't even the one parking, she was,
yeah,
right? And it's one of those where like you not only to say you can't understand, but you hit it on the hill. You just got to have some compassion, right?
mm-hmm,
And having a guest from the south is, I think, there's still an idea of witchcraft and voodoo when it comes to science and global
mm-hmm.
warming and even bless your heart. You're like, I'm from southeast. I mean west. I mean, goddamn, Alabama's fucking you guys up down there. But it's I'm not sure you got 50-50. But it's like you said, it's a difference. And
For sure.
it's a cultural thing, I think, down there. Like nobody's autistic, nobody's got ADHD. That's a Yankee thing. You know what I mean? Like that's
Mm-hmm.
not.
And I feel like if you do, you're like, oh, you're just a little quirky, or you're just a little weird. Or, oh, no, 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 honey, you're not autistic, or you're not ADHD. Don't tell people that. And I'm like, bro, that's who I am. Like, I'm not gonna be ashamed of who I am. Like, if you have a problem with who I am, that's a you problem. That's not a me problem. Because this is who I am.
Mm-hmm.
This is who I have always been. And if you don't like it, you can leave.
Hell
Right.
yeah.
So,
Like my friends say, my grandpa likes to say, if everybody liked the same thing, they'd all be after grandma.
that's funny.
There's a lot of truth to that, right? Like
Hmm.
we don't all like the same kind of jam. That's why there's mint jelly. Who likes mint jelly? That shit's horrible.
I've never even heard of mint
I've never
jelly.
heard of that either. Those are two
Uh,
opposite things, and you
uh,
put them in the same sentence.
so
Ah,
look it
that's a
up. White
curse.
people eat their lamb chops with mint jelly. Some white people shit. And some you people shit. I like how Aaron's like, that's not southern. We don't eat lamb down south. We don't eat
No.
no veal. Now we eat some possum and some porcupine, but we ain't eat no
Oh no,
lamb.
no, no, none of that either.
None of that either.
I mean, I can't speak for the rest of the South, but me personally, absolutely not.
You won't eat no raccoon. You won't eat no possum.
Mm-mm. I
Oh,
didn't eat anything other than chicken until like 10 years ago.
you got to be the most bless your heart. You got to be the most city special. I can see why they don't like you. They're like, You're not Asperger's. You just don't belong here.
Yeah. And I don't drink sweet tea either, which is like call the church, burn me at the stake.
Oh, you should come up here to Washington instead. You'll fit in better here.
No, she won't. I love me some sweet tea. Fuck you. Don't lie to her. You know what's funny about sweet tea is I remember when I first moved to Georgia, and
Mhm.
I had tea, and I asked for sugar. She's like, "You don't need sugar, baby." Are you sure? You do not. You don't need sugar, baby. Bless your heart. Where are you from? And I was Washington. She's like, DC. That's no Seattle. She's like, you ain't ready for this, baby. You want me to water it down for you? I said, water it down. Why would I? Why would I? Because we drink coffee here. So you know how insulted I was to think somebody want to water down my coffee. Give it to me as strong as you can, like my coffee, like me, strong and black, just like my tea. And I took one drink. I was, Jesus Christ! I think I need some insulin as we speak. Right?
The Lord cannot save you from the sweet tea.
The Lord has blessed you with the sweet tea. It's a little bit different. So do you make your own sweet tea?
I don't drink tea at all. Or not like Southern tea. So I like English teas and breakfast teas and herbal teas.
The bitter stuff.
Yeah. So yeah, I have a lot of food aversions.
I just want to let you know
that,
I didn't freeze. I didn't freeze.
That was the dramatic pause.
I was just.
He was shooketh.
Yeah, that wasn't a freeze or anything. That wasn't for you to go on. I just wanted to. That was for what the fuck? What kind of? She's what Mary Poppins kind of bullshit. She said I do the British English tea with a spot of cream.
Where's Variety D when you need her?
I do my English tea with a spot of cream with some crumpets, but I'm not doing your blockety block sweet tea. I will not do that. I will not. Oh bollocks.
But yeah, so I have a lot of food aversions though, and sweet tea for some reason, like I just can't drink it.
You are
Or
not
like even I like
allowed.
sweet tea.
You are not allowed at the cookout. I'm pretty sure all your black friends have told you that. You probably don't eat. You put raisins in your potato salad. And you don't like sweet tea. You're fired,
Oh,
Erin.
I don't eat potato salad.
Jesus Christ! Yeah, you can't. You definitely can't come to the cookout. You don't know what potato salad tastes like. You don't drink sweet tea. Do you have any black friends? That's the next question. Sorry, we're gonna leave that one alone. We're gonna leave that one alone. She's like, my maid's black. We got one hanging in the tree. Oh shit. Oh, sorry. That's. I know you're from Alabama.
When the black person on this podcast is the most racist.
I'm only half black. Half the time I'm with you. Sorry. So being from Alabama, we talked about this. Are you Roll Tide or War Eagle?
So like I said before when we were just kind of like chatting, I enjoy the community aspect of sports, but like the actual like games themselves completely over my head. I come from a house divided family. So my mom's side of the family are Auburn fans. My dad's side of the family are Alabama fans. My sister just graduated from Auburn's pharmacy school. But so I've always just said I was an Alabama fan, but I don't care either way. So hopefully no one from Alabama that knows me sees this.
Where's their sound effects? That definitely deserved the sound.
I'm gonna be shamed. They're gonna have me down the street ringing a bell, singing shame behind me because I don't.
They're gonna put a scarlet A on your forehead.
Yeah, an Alabama A.
Yeah, scarlet letter. Jesus, I only say that because now, mind you, I'm from Washington. I went to the Peach Bowl when we played you guys.
Yeah.
And I don't know if you remember that. It was like the first time we were in the college foot playoffs, and it was in Georgia, and I went to school in Georgia. And so the whole time, all you Alabama fans were running your mouth. And this is
that's it. That's what they do.
She said, "That's it. You're right." And we got to the game, and we were up early, and it was quiet. And I think Janejira will tell you, I had a video going, oh, 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 and there's a little girl crying next to me, and I was like, there's no crying in football. Oh, I heckled a 6-year-old. I definitely heckled a
Oh
6-year-old.
yeah.
And my buddy
Oh,
would say, hey,
really?
man. I said, hey, I don't care. And in the background, the Alabama girl was flipping off my video. Oh, it was awesome. I loved it.
Dante believes in
Yeah.
equality. He will heckle anybody and everybody. You have a 2-year-old baby, he'll heckle that thing if it won't shut up.
Oh, bless.
But
Your firstborn just came out of the hospital, he'll heckle it.
it's a different breed down there.
Oh yeah, no, it's crazy. Like people, so Alabama is what is called a Nike school because like Nike is the person who provides their uniforms. Auburn is a Under Armour school, or they were. I don't know if they still are. But like I know people who are Alabama fans that refuse to wear Under Armour because Under Armour likes Auburn, and then vice versa. And I'm like, bro, it is a clothing brand. Like,
It's
Ma'am,
like the Potter houses, but make it
ma'am,
real life.
this is a Nike household here.
yeah, no,
We
I
do not,
agree.
and we do not support any other brands. I'm
For our
working on
audio
that.
only listeners, Dante's got a Nike hoop shirt on. It's black and blue. He's trying to flex.
Jesus.
So, side question: are you like a sneakerhead or?
Ooh. So I'm kind of a fashionista.
Okay,
Um,
okay.
I've got
He's called
200.
Suit Man for a reason.
I've got 212 ties. I've got 80 shirts. I've got 13 pair of shoes, about 100 pair of socks. I did the math. I've got over 4 million color combinations.
Roll
That
Tide.
didn't even include ties and belts. You know what I mean? So, yeah, I'm kind of a discount dress clothes whore. That would be
Okay,
that would
I like
definitely
it. I
be
like it.
right. Like I'm the type of guy. If we go on a road trip, we're stopping at all 7 Rosses in between where here and where we're going because
Hell
every
yeah.
Ross has a different treasure to be
Oh,
found.
100%.
Right? It's
It's
different.
funny because I don't
Go
think I've ever seen you wear sneakers. I've only seen you like wear dress shoes, and I was like, he doesn't have an answer to that question.
No, as far as sneakers go, I got about 40 pair of sneaker.
Nice.
I got a pair of neon yellow, pink, and blue Nike Prestos.
Oh,
Nice.
nice.
I'm almost gonna take them out. If you banter for a second, I'll go grab them. But
Okay, okay.
they are definitely. What is your favorite shoe? I'll go grab them. Tell everybody about your favorite shoe.
Okay.
It's actually really funny because I'm going to an arts festival
Hmm.
that's actually shoe themed. It's called Interlaced on the 23rd, and it's about like the shoes and the cultures around the people that wear them or something.
That's cool. Like, no, no. So, for me, I work for a fashion sporting goods company. Like my
Ooh.
full-time job, the one that I've had since I was 18 years old. I used to work like in the actual stores. I was a sales associate, then I was an assistant manager. I was a store manager for a few years. Now I work at our corporate office, so our store support center, and I do property management, which is like
Ooh.
completely different, but I'm still dealing with the stores. But so sneaker culture has been a part of my life for the past 12 years. So like I really, really like shoes.
Yes.
So these,
uh,
these
yes,
sexy bitches,
Yes. The
love,
pink, blue, and yellow.
these right
love, love.
now are my new sneaker. And they're if you know anything about the Nike Prestos, they're actually
Mhm.
kind of a trend center. And what I mean by that is they're one of the first shoes that was like all spandex, kind of flex like the Nike Freeze. One of the
Mhm.
first shoes that were kind of like that, right? And so it came they came out in 1999, I want to 96, right? And
Oh,
they
I was
launched in
born.
2000, right? So the first pair of Prestos launched in 2000. I remember having them, and like your feet would get soaked if you ran in them. And they'd get moldy and just like stuff like that. And I remember I had a pair of Adidas that were kind of similar, and they had a flex in their sole. So every time you ran in a puddle, your whole bottom that was even worse. So I found out those were definitely dry weather running shoes, right? But the reason why I say that is there's all different types of shoes that I have. Most of the ones that are cool are like from an era. Like I got a pair of Nike Aired Ups. Those were one of the first Penny Hardaways before he actually got his own shoe. I
Mm-hmm.
got a pair of the Jordan Alphas that showed Jordan shooting the free throw to win the championship in the NCAA. So I've got some Griffeys, King Griffey Juniors that are kind of iconic. So I'm kind of in the know. I'm
Mm-hmm.
definitely not a sneaker head. Might be a sneaker pinky, a sneaker toe, but not quite a
A
sneaker.
sneaker thinker about her.
Yeah, thinker about her. There we go. Maybe sneaker voyeur. I got some voyeur sneaker in me. You know what I mean? Like I want to
There you
see
go.
other
Okay,
people's
okay.
sneakers, but I don't want to do sneakers myself. I don't want to spend money on sneakers. I'll watch you spend money on sneakers, but we're not spending my money on sneakers.
I mean, they're expensive, so yeah.
Well, let me ask you a question. You said you were married, right?
Yes.
What's the plan of him like leaving soon? When could I move my stuff? No,
Oh
I'm just
my
messing.
god. Boo. Boo. This is why we choose the bear.
This is why we choose
Yeah,
the. I'm kind
where's
of
the
a
bear
bear.
at?
I'm right here, baby. Big old teddy bear. No, I'm just messing with you. So you said he got married. The reason why I
Mhm.
asked that is because even though this isn't dating with disabilities, why do you think that was such an aversion for them to believe you were autistic? What do you think was the hang up there?
Um, so like stereotypically, autistic people struggle with relationship, like just like friendship relationships. So I guess neurotypicals have this mindset that, well, if they can't have friends, they're sure as heck not gonna have a romantic partner. But yeah, and then my husband, he and I, we were married before. I mean, he knew I was ADHD, like everybody knows that. But he and I were married before I found out that I was autistic. So, I mean, but granted, I have known him almost all of my life. Well, there was a period of time where we like had lost touch, but his grandmother and my grandmother were next door neighbors when our moms were little kids. So,
Aww.
like, my family and his family have always been close. So it's like one of those like love story, like Taylor Swift song kind of romances,
Aw.
but not like the sad Taylor Swift songs, like
I've
the
n-
Yeah,
epic
yeah,
kind of
the
I
romantic.
happy
don't
ones.
know any Taylor Swift songs. I'm
You should
sorry.
though. The Eras
Taylor
tour was a
Swift,
banger.
Taylor Swift is one of my current hyperfixations.
I'm with you.
No way. I never. You look like a Swifty. Is it a
Yeah,
Swifty or a Swifter or what?
It's a
a
Swifty.
Oh
Swifty, a
my God.
Swifty.
I got it right. It's funny. I'm watching the show live and I just saw you were so hurt. It's that's like almost picture worthy. You were just like, how
How
dare
dare.
you? You don't know who Taylor Swift is.
Do you sell the Swifty friendship bracelets in your shop? Because if
So,
not, that might be a good
yes,
idea.
I did. I'm currently sold out of them, but I did a Taylor Swift earring collection. So
Ooh.
I've actually done two. I just finished up the second, but I made 7 styles from each of her 10 albums when she released Midnights. And then for
Oh
this
my
new
God.
album,
I'm spotlighting you two because I have no clue what in the hell you're talking about.
Yes.
Go ahead. Talk about your
The good
so
Taylor
stuff.
Swifty shit.
Mhm.
so I am like I said earlier, I'm a polymer clay artist. So I make polymer clay
So
earrings.
what is that? Go back. What is a polymer clay artist before you geek out? Because I don't know what that means. So tell me.
This is polymer clay. I mean, this is a half of a block of polymer clay. So it's this like lightweight crafting clay that it's you bake it in your oven once you like
Okay.
make it into what you want. So I use it, and so I make earrings out of it. So this is for my next collection. So it's like a coastal theme. But so
For our
monthly,
audio-only listeners, she is holding up sand dollar seashell earrings. They are gorgeous and beautiful, and you should buy them.
And just for all the people who are PETA, looks like they're not real seashells, just so you know.
no,
They're not real organisms going on your ear. Continue.
yeah. So I forgot where I was.
How you
You
make
were
it?
working on the clay earrings?
Yeah, so I did a Taylor Swift collection. So last year I did a collection that had 7 styles from each of her 10 albums. Uh, and it was a hit. I mean, the Swifties are Swiftin'. They love Taylor. And then I just did a second Taylor Swift collection. The first collection was called the Eras collection. The
Hell
second one
yeah.
was called From the Vault collection.
Ooh.
So in this collection, I made styles from the vault songs. But it did exceptionally well too, because like I said, the Swifties love Taylor. And but for Taylor, she is such a storyteller and gives so much visual in her songs. It was so easy to pull inspiration from her work and put that into my own work. So it was a lot of fun. But yeah, I love Taylor. But I know this conversation piggybacked off of the relationship with my husband that I compared to a Taylor Swift song, which was piggybacked off of, I don't normally keep track, but I was thinking real hard so we could get back to where we were. But so that piggybacked onto the diagnosis doctor asking me or telling me that he didn't think that me being married was something that an autistic individual could be or do. But there are tons of autistic individuals who are married. A lot of neurodiverse people end up in even if they don't know they're neurodiverse, end up in relationships with other neurodiverse people. My husband, I am 99.99999% sure that he is he's not on the spectrum. He's not ADHD. Like, he is neurotypical, like, as it comes.
If you like that.
So,
and that's okay. That's valid too, I guess.
Yeah. So a lot of times he sees my struggles and he understands my struggles, but he's never experienced them. So there's a lot of times where I literally have to like break down exactly how I'm feeling, why I'm feeling that way, what is making me feel that way. And like, he still doesn't understand sometimes. So it is a struggle. I mean, and I understand like all marriages are hard, like no one's married.
Yeah.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
It's
It's just basic communication.
Yeah.
I was just thinking, all autistic, like, I'm pretty sure a lot of us get in relationships. We're not good at them. I wasn't, but we're in them. Like, we're in them, right? Like, just, go ahead.
So I like, all relationships are hard, but like for me and him, since one of us is neurotypical and the other is not, there's a lot of times where we're not seeing eye to eye, but we work through it. We communicate through it. And I mean, he respects me. He respects my autism. He respects my diagnosis. He understands that sometimes things are harder for me, and he doesn't understand why they are, but he knows that they are. And he's very loving and works with me on things. And I mean, he wants to see me succeed and he wants to see me happy. So it's good to have someone, especially someone that doesn't necessarily understand my struggles, but sees me struggling and wants to help me the best that they can.
Aww,
and I feel like that can be said for any neurotypical and neurodiverse relationship, but I feel like for someone who's married to someone who's neurotypical, it's very, very important, because if he wasn't understanding or accepting, I don't think our relationship would be what it is.
Yeah, I've been there. It'd be like that.
Mm-hmm. I had an ex-boyfriend once whose brother asked my boy, and this is my ex, asked him, like, what are your plans with this relationship? Like, if you marry her, then you're just going to have a bunch of weird kids.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Go.
Yeah. So,
pick the bear over him.
Yeah, it is very important to, and I mean, and unfortunately, not all neurotypicals are going to understand or respect my autism, my ADHD, and like, I hate that that's a part of my life, but like, that's just something I have to understand and deal with on a daily basis. But when you find your people who love and understand you, you can build those relationships. Mm-hmm. So yeah, a lot of autistic people struggle with relationships because they're trying to make relationships with people who have no desire to understand or to get along with them. So I feel like that is the reason I was able to have a successful, or I'm still currently in the successful marriage, but that's the reason like I was able to get married. It's because I found someone who genuinely cares about me and understands that I'm different and I'm going to have to think different. I'm going to do things different. I'm going to react different. But that doesn't mean that I'm less of a person.
Aww. There's no crying on the show. We're not getting all sensitive.
Too late.
It's too late. Janejira cried today. That was
I'm kind of just thinking about how like I made it to the 1 year mark with my partner, and I've like told all my friends, I'm like, not gonna lie, I usually don't make it this far. This is the most
No,
amazing
for
thing
sure.
ever. Because it'd be
And
like
like,
that. It'd be a struggle sometimes.
yeah. And like for me, like I know a lot of my friends, especially like my neurotypical friends in high school, like they had multiple boyfriends, they dated around. Like I've only had 3 boyfriends my whole entire life.
Ooh.
So like, yeah. So like my relationships, like I wasn't like compared to neurotypical kids, like I wasn't having as many relationships or even friendships. So I feel like the doctor, if he could have seen that, and like, I mean, I told him, but like, I'm trying to get to what I'm trying to say. So like, yes, I am in a successful relationship, but that doesn't mean that I haven't struggled with relationships up to that point.
That doesn't mean you still
So,
don't struggle with relationships either. That just means you found one that works, and maybe it's not
yes.
even working the best, but you're at least working on it, right? Like
Mhm.
I told, who was it? I was somewhere the other day and told somebody I was on the spectrum, and they were like, "You?"
Mhm.
Yeah, and they're like, "How?" And I was, "Are you kidding me?"
How?
I'm like, what?
God.
Do you not know I'm 42 years old? Do you not know it's taken me a long time to get where I'm at now? Like, you don't know what I've been like. You also don't understand all I do is build fucking Legos when I go home. That's all. Fuck you. You laughed a
You
little
don't
bit too
know
hard at
me.
that. You laughed a little too hard. She thinks I'm joking, right? But I was thinking, do I have a problem? No, I only spend money on Legos. It's not a bad thing. Fuck it. But it's like people don't understand, like you may not be good at building relationships daily, or you may not
Mhm.
be good at the first interactions, or you're not good at the follow up, or you're not good at being appropriate, or you're not good at being or oversharing, or you're not good at
Mhm.
not just somebody says, "How's your day?" Like, oh, do you really want to know? Because this morning I woke up and my beaver was bothering me, and they're like, did you just say yeah, I have a pet beaver? Oh god, oh Jesus, what she's and then they're still thinking about the fact you said beaver, but you meant a real beaver, not your beaver, and you do have your beaver, but you're not your beaver. Now come on, who would talk about their beaver? And then if
And
you
then
do
you
get
find out that wasn't even the question. It was the whole like small talk thing. And they're
Yeah.
like, you're just supposed to say good and not
and
actually
they
answer
go,
the question.
I gotta catch the bus now. You have a good day, but I didn't finish telling you about my beaver.
Yeah.
That's a
So
trick question.
I am a chronic overshare. It is a struggle. Because like you said, people just want to have this small talk. And like I'm like, no, I'm gonna
It's
tell you
bullshit.
about everything.
I did
Well, that's
that.
how we met because I think like one of us gave like one compliment on the post, and then the other person was like, "Let me tell you the history of my shop and everything." And then I was like, "Wait, can we expand on that topic, which reminds me of this topic, which then reminds you of that topic?"
Yes.
And then I was like, "By the way, I have a podcast. Let's bring this to there."
Yes, yes. I think you had commented on one of my Instagram posts. And then I had went to your Instagram because you were sweet to me. So I was like, oh, I'm gonna be sweet to her too.
Yeah.
So then I saw that you had made a post that you were an autistic artist, and I was like, oh my god, me too. Because
Yes.
like that is like a can of worms you don't just get to open up a lot. Because like
Exactly.
with the general public, if you're like, hi, hi, I'm autistic, they're like, oh yeah, you are. And
Yeah.
then they're just
You
like,
can't
let
just
me
say that.
just
We
exit
run
here.
away.
That was
Yeah.
kind of like us. So when we started this podcast, there was a third person. And when I met Janejira, me and Janejira got along better than her boyfriend, I think.
Oh
But
yeah, we did.
I didn't know it at the time, but we ended up hanging out. We're all doing all the things, and I'd asked Janejira to do a project, and then I'd hyper focus one day. She'd be like, "Holy shit, you got like 8 things for me to do." I'd be like, "Yeah, I need you to get them done." And then one day she'd hyper focus and get them all done. I'd be like, "Oh shit, you got all 8 things done?" And she's like, "Yeah, of
It's just a
course."
typical Tuesday.
Yeah, and I'm like, I get it, but not my Tuesday. My day's Wednesday. We don't do like this on Tuesdays. We do this on Wednesdays and Fridays, ma'am. Thank you very much. But well, the third person got in the wheel, and she's like, "Yeah, Dante's autistic," and I was like, "Hey,
Yeah, it's like,
maybe you're right. Maybe you're right. But hey, you're not supposed to label me."
And then he
Yeah.
was like, let's start a podcast for autistic artists. And I was like, oh, like me. And he was like, what?
And
You're
then
Yeah.
autistic too?
and I said, "You're autistic." And then the other podcast member said, "We're autistic." And I said, "What do you mean we?" She's like, "You and me." And it's
Collectively.
yeah,
Yeah.
we were in high school
It all
together.
made sense.
Then she said, "We're in high school together. Remember? I thought you knew." And I was like, "You
Well,
mean
that's the
I
thing.
New
was?"
Like
information.
most autistic individuals, whether they do it subconsciously or not, we find each other. We clump together
We
like kitty
do.
litter.
The funny thing is that we can tell like each other the other person's autistic, but then when it comes to ourselves, it's like, wait a damn minute. What do you
Yeah.
mean?
Oh yeah.
I don't know about that. I don't know if that tracks. I don't know. The results came back, and Maury said, "Yeah, you're autistic, but we just wanted to have a dramatic pause, right? Like we just let me read this paper
Had
first.
to
But
make
yeah,
a scene.
you're definitely autistic, buddy. Did you see the way you got mad? How we called the dinosaur by the wrong pronunciation, dude? You're definitely autistic. It's ankylosaur, not ankylosaur. Okay, get it right. Oh, sir.
It'd be
I
like
feel like
that
that's so that sidetrack off of that, like that is such an autism struggle though. When you see people doing something and you know it's not right and you want to correct them, not because like you're trying to be like, oh, I'm the big bad, like knowing all, but it's like you're
It's
like, hey,
because
no,
they're
what?
wrong.
Yes, and you're like, I want you to know the right thing, and like people get offended and they get like, oh, well, you're just trying to be like
Know it
rude. I'm
all.
like, no, like you exactly. When I'm like, no, like I'm literally trying to share my knowledge with you, so that way you're not sharing like false knowledge to others. Like it's not like a know-it-all kind of thing. It's like a literally like I want to teach you, and like that's with all
It's a teaching
aspects of
moment.
things. Yeah.
Well, that's the other part
Like,
of it is I know I had a friend once build their Lego roses. I had bought my ex girlfriend the same Lego roses at the time, and she's like,
mm,
"Look at mine." She's like, "Yeah, I didn't quite figure out how to do them just like the book," and so I was, "Oh," and so I took them apart and fixed them. And she's, "Why did you do that? I didn't ask you to change them. I just said I didn't make them." But um, uh, I guess you didn't. I'm sorry. Right, but in my mind, you'd said you didn't do it right, so
mm,
obviously you want to do it right. I mean,
exactly.
why would you want your roses done wrong? That's stupid.
Yeah.
Well, let me ask you, how were you doing your artwork before your diagnosis, or did you start your artwork after your diagnosis?
So I started technically before. I have been doing some form of art my entire life. So I was a very like artistic kid. I excelled in art class. Like my art teacher would always like pull my stuff aside and like show it to the rest of my peers. Uh, but
You
I
got,
feel like
ma'am, you got some brown stuff right here.
where?
I'm just
No,
messing.
I
I
don't.
can't. She's calling you a brown noser. She's like, they always pull my stuff aside in class. I made the best stick figures. Nobody likes you. I was never that kid. I'm sorry. I'm just a little
You're
bitter.
just
My
jelly. You've
yeah,
been
my
drinking the
picture
haterade.
never. I have never had an art project then be like, oh my god, here is the one. We're gonna put it. No, no. Go ahead.
But I
Yeah.
feel like for me, art has always been a way where I can express myself without judgment, especially when I was younger, because kids love art. Like, you can't tell me there's not a single kid that doesn't, and it doesn't necessarily have to be like drawing or coloring books. It could be built like building Legos is a form of art.
Hmm.
So, like, whether it's playing with Play Doh, building Legos, like painting sidewalk chalk, like, we are born to express and be creative. And as we get older, we're told like, oh yeah, that's fun, but you need to focus on things that are gonna like get you places.
You
So
have to
like
do things that make you money.
exactly. So like growing up, like I have always loved art. Uh like most of my Christmas gifts or birthday presents were some kind of art kit or some kind of like
Hmm.
painting supplies. So I have been artistic. I used to make beaded bracelets when I was in elementary school. Like I've just always loved that I could just with art you can literally just do what you want. There's no rules, there's no standards. It is a completely free way to express yourself and to put what you have in your brain into like whether it be a picture or a bracelet, like any form of expression, you can do it with art. So during 2020, when COVID happened and everything got shut down, I was locked up in my house like most of us were. The world was closed. So I started what I called quarantine crafts. And in 2020, I knew that I was different. I mean, I've always known that I was different. I think my friend and I had the autism conversation at this point, but I hadn't really like dug 100% deep into it. So, but everything shut down and I needed something to do because like everything had changed. I actually side conversation. I had like a full like breakdown in 2020. And I think it was literally like autistic burnout just hit me because like so much changed and my body just could not handle any of it. At the time, like I thought I was just having like anxiety from hell. But I mean, it was anxiety, but I don't think its true source was just generalized anxiety. I think it was my undiagnosed autism and so much happening and changing at once that my body just literally couldn't take it anymore. But so one of the ways that I was trying to regulate myself and like regulate my emotions was to do something creative while the world was shut down. So I started quarantine crafts, and that's when I discovered polymer clay, and I literally fell in love with it. And working with clay put my mind at so much peace because it's a very, very tedious process. But while I'm doing it, like it's not taxing. I don't feel exhausted. Like I'm just able to completely focus on it and just like let myself be free. And I feel like not necessarily starting my business, but just like pouring my heart into art like 100% wholeheartedly did like so much for my mental health and for my just like general well-being, especially as an autistic individual. So but to short answer your question, when I started doing earrings, I did not have a formal or a self-diagnosis for myself.
Oh, Dante, you're still on mute.
We're all different, right? Like it is what it is. I love to look at it as we got a good answer for you. We got to the end of the podcast. We talked about a whole bunch of things. If you didn't know, it's been an hour. You made it. Maybe we'll have you on Dating Disabilities. We'll talk about what it's like being married to a non-autistic person with compassion.
Mm-hmm.
Kind of like being, finding I don't know if I ever find a white woman who understands racism, but it sounds like you found a non-autist who understands autism. I mean, I found one, but she was taken. I'm just messing with you. Tell everybody where they can find you, where they can buy some goodies. How do they find your beautiful art? Tell them where to find your store.
So I have a website. It's maclayco.com. So that stands for Mark Alexander Clayco. And my Instagram handle is also maclayco. And I have a Facebook under the same name, Mark Alexander Clayco. So you can find me on all three of those platforms. I post on my Instagram the most. I do cross post what I post on my Instagram to Facebook, but I do a lot of stories on Instagram that don't end up on Facebook just because Facebook's stories are just not as fun as Instagram. But I ship internationally on my website, so that's fun. But yeah, so Mark Alexander Clayco is my business name.
Give it up for Erin Bailey, everybody out of Birmingham, Alabama. Give it up for our co-host, the potato chip enthusiast in the pink, doing local shows and fairs. You'll see us soon. And don't forget, I've been your host with the most, the suit man with the slick back. Been a hell of an episode. We talked about everything from dating to being country and autistic, which is kind of like being hillbilly, right? To Swifties. We talked about Swifties. We'll never do that again. Anyways, I've been Duante Barnett. Thank you for showing up, everybody.